Hi, everyone. It's Coaches Katie,
And Ashley,
and we are the C in Strive TLC.
supporting the coaches who support the teachers.
Well, here we are on our second podcast for instructional coaches. Let's talk about something that is on the minds of all new coaches, their new office space or what to do with it.
We know that office spaces can take many different forms as we're thinking about office spaces in schools because coaches have lots of different roles within schools. Sometimes they're in one school, sometimes they're in multiple schools. So you and I kind of have two different viewpoints coming into this. Katie, how was your coaching role in your coaching space because
Yeah,
of that role?
exactly. We definitely are seeing this from two different perspectives. I supported three elementary schools, and did not have any space in any of those schools. So my office space was at the admin building. And that was kind of difficult at first. I really didn't know what to do with the space, but I wanted it to be something that if teachers did come over, they felt comfortable coming into the room. I also wanted to make sure that it was a place where I felt comfortable working, that it reflected who I was. So when I started off, obviously you need your desk space. Reference books and materials, very important to have. I had a bookshelf with all of those so that they were readily available. Treats, I think that's one of the big ones. I always had a bucket of candy, and you'd be amazed at how many people knew that, and they would just swing by and grab a piece of candy if they happen to be in the admin building. And that's when you get a lot of those little coaching conversations that can happen. I had motivational pieces, posters, anything that we were working on in the schools. I would put up any newsletters I sent out. Um, all the instructional frameworks from all the schools I worked in, I had those up just as a reminder of what we had in each of the schools.
Did you find that any of those pieces that were kind of connected to the goals, like when you got those people coming into the office, getting the candy, were those conversation points? Like, was there kind of like a purpose behind having those up on the wall, or was it just like these are the things that I'm prioritizing in my job? Like, how do you think that might have like changed the conversation as people were coming into the room?
Yeah, that's a
Or
really
did it?
good question. Great question, Ashley. I had a big bulletin board behind my desk, and that's where I would post anything that I'd been working on in the schools or I had sent out. And so I did have people talk about it. They'd come in, they're like, "Oh, I love that newsletter," or "That was such a great book study." And I said, well, then I would say, "Well, what did you like about it?" So yes, it did help for talking points. And it also, sometimes coaching, you feel like, gosh, am I making an impact? Am I making a difference? And then for myself, when I would look up, I would say, "Oh yeah, yeah, look what we worked on," or "We did this." And it would also be a reminder from year to year. Like if I sent out something at Halloween, I'd say, "Oh yeah, maybe I could do something this year with Thanksgiving theme or something like that." So it helped me stay focused as well. That makes sense.
Sure, sure. Yeah, because the coaching space, I mean, we want to attract people to the coaching space and get them coming into our office, but also really we want it to be a productive space for us too. So that's a good point that if you've got
Yes.
those action plans up on the wall, it helps to kind of redirect you each day of, okay, where's my goal? Where am I going? Yeah,
Right.
that's a good point.
One of the funniest things I did, I thought it was kind of funny, but I put all the my favorite children's novels that I read as read alouds on the top shelf. So if I was coming back and it was may have been a stressful situation, I just sat there to get something done on my computer, I'd look up, I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is what it's all about." It helped me refocus too about the kids and the work we're doing. So anything that I think helps you focus and is who you are. Like I had this big giant cow behind, we called her Cora the cow, behind my desk because I wanted people to come in and just relax and smile, and got so many compliments on the cow. But teaching is so hard, coaching is hard, anything in education. And so I wanted a space where I could have people come in and just go and breathe. I had a couple nice chairs in there where people could sit. and we could just have conversations.
Like, did you have a bag that you carried around with you, or could you be somewhat mobile and like, oh, I'm at this school today, so I've got my bag with my computer, I'm going to work in the office in between coaching cycles? Or how did you do that? Or did you always go back to your home base?
Sometimes I worked in the buildings, like I would just, but it's really hard because you'd be in the teacher's lounge, or you would, there just
Yeah.
wasn't space. Like at one of the schools, there was no space at all. So I had a backpack. And then if I had a meeting like at 2 o'clock, I would just run over to South School with my backpack and whatever I needed.
Mm-hmm. With your schedule being at three schools, did you have like a schedule on the door? Or like, you know how sometimes you'll see those people that have like, I'm with the principal, or I'm at lunch, or did you have to do anything like that? Or because you were in a different building, not enough people came your way?
Nobody ever came to the admin building. Nobody wants to go to the admin building, right? It's like if they were there for a meeting, they would stop in, but really it was me going out.
Sure, sure. So your office was more like designed for you and your productivity when you were in the office.
Mhm. But also a space that if somebody wanted to come, they could come and sit. Like there were times when people would come, but not if somebody wanted me, I
Mhm.
always went to them.
Sure. I feel like with being in the buildings, so we kind of, one year we had an office in both of the buildings because I had a co-partner coach. And then one year we had a classroom in both of the buildings, which was a blessing. Not very many coaches get a classroom in their buildings. Um, and so I feel like in our situation, we had like a candy dish, or if we knew there was something that the teachers needed a lot of copies of, like we had PDSAs in our office, so they didn't have to go use their copies, they could come into our office. And I found that by having like a candy dish in there, or something that they kind of had an excuse to come to the office and grab, that's when if they had a question that they didn't really know how to ask, or they just had something that they needed to get off their chest, it was a good excuse to come, like, oh, I'm going to come get your candy dish. And then as they were walking out, kind of like, oh, and this thing happened. Some coaching conversations are hard conversations because they're have to be so vulnerable. And I felt like that made an easy entry point for some people. So
Yeah, and it's a place too where they can come and vent if they need to. It's a safe place.
because our offices were such a different function, thing that you said, like that action plan was up on the wall to remind you, like, oh yeah, this is what I need to do next. I feel like my wall was almost like a marketing wall, like that we've accomplished, and here's our next goal, and this is how close we are. As a reminder for teachers of everything that we're working on, and we're doing such a good job, and a way to keep the momentum going, which you're right, did motivate me as well. But I think mine was more, I was trying to be as strategic as possible about communication. Because there was
Yeah,
a
and I think that's great too. If you have the space and you can do that, I think that's great. I hear a lot of people putting up data walls too, in their office space.
one thing, we did data walls one time at the school. I liked these ones. We took the kids' pictures because then I feel like when you're looking at data, sometimes it just gets to be data, numbers and moving colors, and we forget the impact that we are having on a human if we move them from an intensive band to a benchmark band. Like that is life changing. And so we wanted to somehow bring that personal piece in. And so we took their pictures and we put them on different colors at the beginning of the year to identify which band they were in. And then we had just a school-wide, this is where our students are. And we did put that in front of teachers at the beginning of the year. It's a little less personal, I think, because it's like this is just where their students came in. And and it allowed us to have discussions about where we would flood our resources. like we could see one classroom has all of these benchmark students, and one classroom has a very large number of students in the intensive band. And it was like this collaborative approach of these are all of our kids. This isn't the second grade teachers' kids. Like, where are we going to flood our resources so these second grade kids, when they get to fifth grade, know how to read? And then in the middle of the school year, we had the teachers go up and move kids. So it was.
Yeah, I like the pictures. I've seen that done before, just as long as kids don't see that.
Yes, 100%. And that would be where it could be an advantage to have a coaching office, because then you could cover it up and take it out when you're doing a different teacher conversation. But yeah, one thing that I think is important, and you talked about this with your pig, your cute pig that was on the wall, but
cow.
Yeah,
the cow.
I am not a decorator. My house is pretty simple. I don't have a lot on the walls. And some people really, they're drawn to like a very aesthetically pleasing room. And I was lucky to have coaching partners. I had 2 different coaching partners, and they were really good at that. And I think that was such a blessing that they were able to add these little finishing touches that did make the room feel homey and welcoming and nice. Because if I'm being honest, I just wouldn't have probably done those pieces, but I do think they made a difference. So
yeah, like little lights. I didn't ever put lights in, but I think lights make it homey. Even a lamp on your desk. I taught with a teacher one time who had a lamp on her desk, and it just made it very homey.
Yeah,
I think you want the space that you're in to be comfortable, but you also want that space to be comfortable for others. Like they could sit down and feel like they can talk to you. But again, when your office space is not with everybody in the buildings, you have to get out into the other buildings, right? You have to be visible to them. I wanted this great office space where everybody would come, but they're not going to come to the admin building.
sure.
So that's when I made it comfortable for me. What you're saying is just make it yours. There's no hard rules. Make it you, make it work for your teachers.
Take a picture of your coaching space and email us, and we'll enter you into a little coaching space drawing. Maybe we can do a gift certificate to Amazon so they can buy something for their coaching space.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, email us a picture of your coaching space. We'll take all of these pictures. So if you email us, that's assuming that you're okaying, Stride can post these pictures. We'll post them in our relationships and coaching bundle. So then we have all of these coaching pictures that we can share with coaches. That's what this is all about.
So everyone, thanks for listening. I hope you got some ideas on creating your space that works for you. It's actually exciting. It's different from creating your classroom space. So you get to make it a little more about you and your teachers rather than what you're teaching. So I hope you come away with a couple of ideas.
Yes, absolutely. And make sure if you want to be entered into this Amazon drawing, take a picture of your coaching space, email it to ashleybrush@gmail.com. I'll put that email in the show notes as well. And then go to our relationships and coaching bundle, which is linked below as well. It's free, but we're going to have a lot of different examples of what different coaching environments have looked like. So if you're going into your first year of coaching and you just need to set up a new coaching space, you'll have some examples to start from, which is always nice.
Well, thanks everyone for listening to our second podcast on making your office space work for you.
Yes, we're so glad you came today. And remember, we're Stride TLC, supporting teachers and leaders, and of course, all of you wonderful coaches.